trees, the structure looks like one of the nicest playhouses a kid could ask for. But the 140 square foot house is actually the home of Gregory Paul Johnson. He works as a computer consultant at the University of Iowa and manages the website Resources for Life, a sort of clearinghouse for things that interest him, such as alternative forms of transportation and, of course, small and sustainable living. He started thinking about downsizing several years ago when a relationship ended. So did his need for the 2,000 square foot house he was living in.
The first apartment I rented, I think, was probably maybe 12 by 14, a fairly large efficiency, with a little kitchenette in there. And I thought that was great.
He became interested in living small after reading a newspaper article about Jay Schaefer's Tumbleweed Tiny House Company and posted it on his website.
A year went by and I started getting phone calls and emails from people saying, you know, where is Jay, this guy that makes these houses? They say, where's Jay? I've got to get in touch with Jay. And I thought, what is this? You know, why do people want to have this interest in these tiny houses?
He and Schaefer eventually met and the Small House Society was formed.
I think of it as a collective group of people who have a similar interest in simple and sustainable housing and wanting to influence in a positive way how our society defines living space and development. So it's not so much that somebody joins and then they get a tote bag or something. It's more that they join and they add their voice to this larger group that is having some influence in that way. Inside the house, the floor plan is laid out. Basically, that's the west, east, and south. Even on a day like today where there's quite a bit of cloud coverage, there's still a lot of light inside here. And part of that is due to the fact that there are no window coverings here. So the light just comes right in. There are no draperies or anything blocking the light. The water is available just from these gravity-fed tanks. And for basically, you know, washing your hands, brushing teeth, that type of thing, that's perfectly adequate.
A permanent structure this small would violate city code, so it's on a trailer parked next to his father's and stepmother's home. That also means he only pays to renew the registration once a year. No property taxes.
There's a ladder which takes up about, I don't know, 2 by 6 in terms of the space. So it's very compact, but it unfolds and then gives me access to the upstairs where there's the sleeping quarters.
There are no utility bills. He's off the grid, as they say, with light and heat provided by batteries and propane. Johnson says one of the keys to living small successfully is what he calls outsourcing.
I don't really need to have laundry, for example. I'm not washing my clothes every day. If I need, you know, once a week, I can go to the laundromat. And then similarly, I thought, well, why am I going to pay a lot more in rent or in mortgage to have my own exercise room? I can just outsource that, you know, go to the gym.
He also uses the facilities at the house next door, has several offices, and keeps some items at a friend's storage unit. More examples of outsourcing. So is there a downside to downsizing? It depends on how you look at it.
On the one hand, your life ends up being much more social, which in some ways is a plus. I mean, when I work out, it's at the gym, so I see people. In fact, this morning I was at the gym and I saw a colleague of mine and we had a good visit. So that wouldn't have happened had I still been in my 2,000 square foot home and exercising at home on my treadmill.
You definitely can't have a lot of people over for a party. Johnson notes you don't have to take small living to this extreme. Just decluttering your life is a step in the right direction.
People have been emailing me or in conferences, they'll talk to me about how hearing this message of simple living has helped them to free up their life of the, you know, extra Tupperware containers or whatever it might be, you know, that they've been wanting to part from, and they realize, yeah, it really is possible.
Johnson says having less stuff gives him more time.
So I found the more I could outsource in my personal life, the less I had to keep on top of, and it was somebody else's responsibility to do that. Even something as simple as the gym. You know, I go there and I see people maintaining the equipment, and somebody's in, you know, calibrating the scale in the locker room, and everything's taken care of. That's one less thing I have to worry about. I think that simple and small living really does appeal strongly to these idealists, whether it's somebody who's concerned about the environment or they're passionate about education or, you know, political reform or something like that. Those kinds of people really don't want to have their time and money chewed up by some other material thing in this life. They want to be focused on what their passion is.
As Johnson sees it, people pay good money to rent a small cabin for their vacation. So why not live that way all year long?